Da 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 da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes. Get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never popped into one of my lives before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And to tell you the truth, I was such a bum today. And, you know, sometimes in taking care of ourselves, especially me, when I overwhelm myself or I've just accomplished something really heavy, sometimes what it is just in having a bad day at work or, right, an argument with a family member. I come home and I want to absolutely de stress. It is that energy being zapped like that. And let me just turn off this one light because it's just a little bit too much. Um, it is in getting zapped in that energy that we can just kind of like this, and you can't even do so much as make the bed or wash the dishes. Well, I can manage to do that, but you don't feel like that. I've had to train myself over the years to just sometimes you don't want to move, and that is the truth. But not moving is a stall. And, especially in this day and age that we live in, where everything is going so fast, it makes me wonder how easy it would be for people to actually fall behind. If it wasn't for COVID, how many seniors would have missed out on the digital age? I think the fact that because the COVID hit, that, seniors didn't have an opportunity to spend time with their kids and spend time with the grandkids who may have been on the other side of the country or let alone maybe the other side of the world. And so they were forced, right? We talk about these changes that come into our life when we don't take the initiative ourselves, that sometimes because it has to happen, it's just arranged and things come across your path and circumstances and catastrophes and wrenches thrown into the engine to try and get your attention, right? To say, hey, you need to make some change. And if you don't make that change, right, it's got to happen. And so, if we could get a little bit of a head of the game in that little bit of preparation and a little bit of looking forward a little bit, not a long ways. Like you're not fortune tellers. I'm not a fortune teller, right? But it is in the catastrophizing quite often when we're talking about how I can get zapped when I become overwhelmed. It was a big part of me giving up that job that put the roof over my head because it just seemed every time I walked into that door, I was getting zapped. And it was confusing and it was hurtful and it was totally exhausting, and it was also very sad because, I thought I had moved far enough along in my lessons to recognize when it's time to move away for something. But sometimes in our catastrophizing, we hold on to things. We don't just push things away. We will actually hold on to things. Like I held on to that job that put the roof over my head. I am a big, uh, well, it's not procrastinating, but this is something a little bit different. Catastrophizing, because catastrophizing can make you procrastinate. It can stall you out because who wants to move in the difficult? Who wants to move in the unknown? Right? Who wants to move in the heartbreak and in the pain? Nobody does. Who wants to just move in something that, right? Something might not even manifest out of that. And because we catastrophize, we turn something small into something big. You guys know I get a lot of my self worth from accomplishing, doing a little bit better by myself. Yes, being highly sensitive and empathic, my self worth does come from what other people think and how other people believe in me. But also in those lessons, I've come to realize that I have to believe in myself first and recognizing, right, where I get things right, where I get things wrong, where are my strengths and where are my weaknesses. And one of those weaknesses, like I said, is in that catastrophizing. Today I got zapped. Right? It wasn't in the plan, right? It was in the plan, but it was in the baby step plan. But again, sometimes when we don't take those initiatives, right? For me, that baby step turned into a little bit of a procrastination, a little bit of put off until tomorrow, or I can do that tonight. And that wasn't in the plan. And I woke up today and the plan was happening. And because I didn't make those moves, right? Made the decision, but I didn't make the moves to go along with those decisions and nothing happened. And so then I'm in it without any backup plan, without any that little bit of prep work, which would have maybe not made me look better, but would have made it so I was more well prepared, so I wasn't stumbling over myself in these interactions, conversations, the official stuff that I don't like. And I don't think a lot of people like doing that official stuff. But you got to do what you got to do, and nobody was going to be able to do it for me. So I had to ride those waves that I found myself in the moment. And at the same time as doing that, I had just come out of, right, doing other official stuff and then completing that. And I was just feeling a little bit good about that. Oh, that's so great. And then I go into my email and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I don't even get a break. We're going right back in, pop to the surface, take a big lungful of air, and then just go diving in again, right? And rode some waves, and it wasn't fun. It's not even close to being something that I appreciate doing for myself, but I understand nobody's going to do that for me. Really, nobody is. Nobody can, right? Nobody can. And so I did that. But in doing that, I couldn't even bring up because I was so frazzled. Remember what I said? Sometimes when you overextend yourself or um, you get beaten up a little bit emotionally, physically, mentally, that it zaps us in a way that it can make it so that, right, we just can't feel anything. Well, we feel, right? But that feel is in the panic. Feel is in the catastrophizing. And again, in those lessons, I've come to recognize that I can't sit in that. I can't even sit in it for 5 minutes because it is so unhealthy for me. So, what do? Right? Brushed my hair, put on my jacket, went for a walk, right? Went to McDonald's and got a cup of coffee. Then I walked down to the river and walked along the river for a few minutes, right? Came back in and, right, went in and did some chores in the store. And it is in that distraction that it pulled me out of the catastrophizing, which is the worry, which is the fortune telling, which is getting too far ahead of myself. And remember, what we think about is realized. And I did not want to think in what I was catastrophizing with. I just wanted to forget it. I wanted to let it go. I accomplished what I needed to accomplish in riding those waves. Now I am distressing with my cup of coffee and my walk along the river. I didn't waste no time. After I got through with phone calls and forms, and as soon as I was done, I was out that door, and it was perfectly what I needed. I couldn't have asked for anything else. And I got distracted in the scenery. I got distracted in the dust in the air because they haven't cleaned the roads up from the gravel in the winter yet. I got distracted in grocery lists and things that I need to pick up because I'm stopping off at the store. I got distracted for a few minutes in what I was catastrophizing in. But then again, having those lessons and taking a big breath and sighing and congratulating me because the hard part of it was done, right? It wasn't fun. I could have been better prepared in that, but it was done. So I can relax in that, but I couldn't because, right, I'm forward thinking too much, right? I call it the domino effect. And what it is, it's like you're setting up big towers and circles and ramps and with dominoes. But you can't hit that domino every time that you have a question of, oh, will this work? You actually have to imagine it. You actually have to, in your mind, hit that first domino and you have to watch it, how it's going, right? Only in your mind. You haven't really done it, but in your mind, you have to do it until you can see where possibly, right? You got it a little bit kinked. That if you just made that a little bit of adjustment, that maybe you could make it a little bit better. And this is what I do with the problems. I just look at the whole rollout, possibilities, kinks, outcomes, and I'm going like this, right? And I can do that all day. And in my perfectionism, right? Move that domino, right? Just a little bit off. And it could have been absolutely perfect the way it was. But because I was catastrophizing, I put myself in that state. And then again, I'm overextending myself, overthinking myself, overguessing myself. And I'm losing that confidence in making good judgments for myself. And what do? I move that domino. And that one domino is what makes the whole thing crash in the end because I was catastrophizing, because I was fortune telling, because I was foreshadowing. I was, right? That domino effect because we second guess ourselves, right? I'd like to say I have 100% confidence in myself, but I follow some pretty smart cookies out there. And it is intimidating sometimes to take in a lesson and know somebody else has got it bang on right. And I'm the one who has to adjust myself in that way of being or that way of thinking. But when I do that, and then again in my mind's eye, I'm going through those dominoes. Sometimes I don't have to touch anything, right? Because I see it moving properly because I've got that confidence in the moment, but it's that confidence is only coming from somebody else's confidence, and that can be intimidating, especially when I'm moving in some of those same lessons, but in the way I'm presenting it, the way I'm absorbing it, and the way I'm missing, right? And because I'm catching these things every day, right? I'm readjusting my way of thinking, right? I'd like to say my way of being, but this is all in the baby steps. And I recognize that I can be as slow or as fast as I want, right? And yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at that. Um, I'm going back into some basics, and um, this was some mentoring. This binder here when I during COVID, and I was having difficulties in securing work, not only securing work, but actually securing a roof over my head when everything was shut down, when it was nobody was even renting, or it was such a bad period. So, right, as much as that was scary, 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 I truly believe that time, at least in my life, it gave me a huge readjustment. It gave me a moment to come up for air and to really take a look at where I got things right, and definitely to where I got things wrong. One of those things I got right was right asking for some help. Right, I didn't know where to go. I didn't even know if there was a possibility of fixing whatever I had, right? One of those, you got to make a mess to clean a mess kind of situations, and I made a big mess. And I got some mentorship, but in getting the mentorship and in getting through those classes and taking in the lessons and actually doing the projects, the assignments and stuff, I got to recognize that what I was learning and what I was studying was something I was already learning and already studying. And that was mindset. And yeah, and surprisingly, the government was serving it to me in its mentorship and helping me to get back to work. Now we're going back 5 years now, but they let me keep my binder. And today I was looking at it and I'm going, oh my goodness, like it's mindset. This is a government program, and they're using mindset to help people to get back on their feet. Now they don't call it mindset. What they call it is an addictions modem, right? It's a difficult one to choke down, but it is what it is. And it works 100%. It works because I went through that program, and I did recognize it as mindset, which was the confirmation that I was on track. And it was the confirmation that I could trust this program. And that's a truth. And that was super secure in my, well, the way I felt. I felt super secure in that. I felt contained and comforted because the government was stepping in to help me out. The government. And people downplay and really put down the fact of how much the government actually is trying to help. But no question, right? I would not be sitting here, no question, if it wasn't for this program that I went through, and not only the program that I went through, but that I recognized it as mindset, which I had already been into for probably 3 years by the time we, by the time 3 or 4 years for sure, by the time we got China. And needless to say, I went even deeper because it was acceptable, right? The government is serving it, right? Because at first I thought, oh, this doesn't make sense, and this is struggle, and this is painful, and why would I want to be putting myself through that, and right, and tying out with the stoics and and the entrepreneurs, and it just seemed like work, 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 work. But of course, that's what it is. I'm not afraid of the work. I'm just afraid of, I don't know what I'm afraid of in that. Maybe it is in the recognition of the effort, what I can bring to the table, and not just what others recognize that I can bring to the table, but what I can recognize that I can bring to the table. Right? Again, I take in a lot of information from a lot of smart cookies out there, and I appreciate the lessons that I quite often am able to pick up, even when I have perspectives of my own, right? And I think it's pretty amazing that I'm able to leave myself open enough for those readjustments that come more often than I'd like them to. Because if they're still coming in that often, right, how much do I really have got it wrong? But in the end, does it really matter? I'm creating the best human being I possibly can, doing the very best that I can. Am I going to get everything right? Not not a chance. But it is easier for me, and it's not just physically easy, it's mentally easy, and it's more emotionally easy. It's just easier to digest, right? It's easier to keep going, and it makes so much sense. It looks like a possibility, and not just a possibility for me because I see in the evidence in itself for myself, right? But I see the possibility of what I might be able to bring to the table and what others, right, are bringing to the table. Yeah, lots of smart cookies out there. Okay, you guys, we are going to grab a card here, just a couple of minutes, and first perspective, first thing that comes to my mind, and we'll just go at it for a couple of minutes. Okay, I hope everybody's having a great night or a great day. If you're just getting home from work and putting your feet up, right? I hope everything went well, and you can give yourself a nice big sigh, make yourself a cup of coffee, or get yourself a drink, right? Put on some good music if music is your thing. Mm, I make a good cup of coffee. Okay, you guys, here. Let's take this word. And this is it right here. Patience, you guys. And what I wrote here is patience is the proofreader, right? Sometimes quite often when we want things to start moving, we will force it. We will cross-reference. We'll check the spelling. We'll check the grammar. We'll check the presentation. We'll practice, right? And still not get it right. And what sets in? What sets in is the impatience. The impatience will cause the frustration, will cause that negative to come into our life. And right. And when you have that frustration and the negative, we're talking the way we think and the way we talk. Uh, what you think about is realized, right? So impatience is worse than just giving up in all itself, because you're still putting in that effort, you're still doing all that work, but you're on a treadmill. You're putting in all that work with nothing, no hope or anything to be able to come to the surface in that, because of the well, what we attach to it, right? What we think about is realized. For myself, you guys, and this, I don't know if this will help anybody with this patience, and maybe it is. I had this conversation with my sister. She beats herself up quite a bit about her weight. I've been that person, right? I was that person. I was pretty hard. She thinks she's hard on herself. I can imagine if she knew how hard I was on herself, she would stop what she was doing, because I was super hard on myself, right? But as I matured and got a little bit older, my weight didn't seem so important. My mind doesn't go to my weight now like it used to. I used to be very compulsive. I was 311 pounds at my very heaviest. Now, has my mindset changed when it concerns the food? No, right? That's the feed for the thinking. I can sit here at the computer and it doesn't stop me or interfere in any way. And it actually will hold me in place in that grounding. If I have a big bowl of popcorn here and I'm taking in, right, I could be right, because I'm content. I got my bowl of popcorn, right? I got that trough in front of me, and when I eat, I can concentrate to no end. And I used to beat myself up in that, but I've gotten very good at being able to sit down and pay attention. And when I pay attention, I notice that I'm not so paying attention to the food as much as I used to, because I'm curious about what's going on in the lesson. And so I can get that, is it dopamine hit, right? I'm getting that hit from the lessons. Still getting the hit from the pink ice donuts with the sprinkles too. But I am getting better. And if I'm not getting better, I am still putting in that effort. And I'm going to be proud of that little bit of effort, because I do. Just like when I quit smoking, and right, every night I'd go to bed and say, that's my last cigarette. I'm never going to have another cigarette again. And then I would wake up in the morning, and that would be the first thing I did, was light a cigarette. Never actually ever quit. Talked about it all the time, but I never quit. I didn't even start smoking cigarettes until I was 27 years old. Right? The first time I quit smoking, I did it. I quit. Never had another cigarette. And at this moment, I would have to say it's been almost 20 years since I've had since I've had a cigarette, right? That things change all the time, and it's just a matter of chipping away at it. And maybe just the fact that I wanted to quit, the fact that every night I said, this was my last cigarette, maybe that was the prep work. Maybe that was the prerequisite in that. Maybe I beat myself up every single morning because I did have that first cigarette. But in that patience with myself, when I finally did quit, like I just quit, it worked. And I haven't had a cigarette since then. And I am so proud of myself for that. There are lots of things in my life that I had to overcome in having addictive personalities. And I have to have that patience for myself, understanding that these were just all ways that I coped with myself, that I rewarded myself after being zapped out, or I am calming myself down because I have to go into an uncomfortable situation, or I'm grabbing my pink ice donuts with the sprinkles because I'm bored, right? Eating out of boredom, that happens too. Grateful for the hobbies and grateful for the lessons, but if I wasn't patient with myself, then maybe a lot of these things that I did eventually give up, and there were lots of them. Oh my goodness. I crunched ice for years, ruined my teeth. I crunched Halls cough drops. Oh my goodness, did that for years. You guys don't ever get hooked on that. That's bad. You know, those eucalyptus and menthols. But in looking for ways to overcome other problems, I took on smaller addictions. Do you know what I mean? And that's how I got off the bigger ones. It's like starting my YouTube channel, right? I started my YouTube channel and I got addicted to doing my YouTube channel, and that helped to pull me away from the video lottery terminals because, yes, I quit gambling too. I had lots of these coping mechanisms, lots of things that I used to cope with my life. And that's exactly what I was doing. I was just coping. And hopefully, that along the way, I find better ways to cope. And sometimes it's just in getting a new perspective and sitting in somebody else who is the expert in what you're having a problem with. And actually, even if you have to sit there with that bowl of popcorn, because that's the only way you can pay attention, right? That maybe that's the tool, that's the information that will help you to make a little bit of movement for yourself. I've done it so much in the past. I would have to say half a dozen years to be honest, right? It was a lot of bumping into the walls for a few years before that, before I recognized truly what was going on, right? But now I'm a little bit more course corrected, and I know how important it is to be patient, right? And in that patience, there's lots of things we can do. Like it says here, patience is the proofreader, right? It's that time, that space while you're waiting that you can go over things, that you can practice your craft. What I'm doing here right now, right? And I have to have patience in that, understanding that if I keep showing up, just keep showing up, that's all, right? That the lessons themselves will be the evidence, not just for myself, but maybe for other people that decide that they're going to come and hang out with me. Okay, you guys, that's it for tonight. I will be back tomorrow. Tomorrow is Good Friday, you guys. I am not a religious person that way. I do like Turkey Day. I'll probably be cooking a turkey maybe on Saturday or Sunday. Get that prepped up so I can maybe have a nice turkey dinner. I was looking forward to it, and I got a good price on a turkey. Maybe I'll invite my sisters over for hot turkey sandwiches or something. Um, in saying that I look at it as Turkey Day, but it's also a time for renewal. It's a fresh start. It's spring, you guys. It's Easter bunnies and colors and right, a new start if you want it to be a new start. But I'm going to have to say it has been a long process for me. Very long, right? But it doesn't have to be for you, right? If you do like I do and just take in a few lessons from some people that you admire, even people that you don't admire, you can learn from all kinds of people. Learn from their mistakes, learn from their successes. Yeah. Okay, you guys. Patience is the proofreader. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great night, great day, wherever you're from. Take care.